now in the palace. And when it becomes her turn to spend the night with Xerxes, he loves her more than all the other women and makes her the new queen. So Esther is now queen, but still no one knows her true identity. So this is where the story gets really interesting, because now we're introduced to Haman the hater. Now, to understand the true significance of Haman to the story, you have to understand his lineage. See, the hating didn't just start with Haman. He was actually from a long line of haters. You see, Haman was an Amalekite and a direct descendant of King Agag, an Amalekite king. Now, the Amalekites and the Israelites were ancient enemies. As a matter of fact, the Amalekites were the first people to attack the Israelites after they left Egypt. So they were fighting for hundreds of years until God instructs King Saul to destroy all the Amalekites and not to spare any man, woman, child, ox, sheep, dog, cat, goldfish. He said everybody and everything gotta go, right? And so they go, and Saul destroys the people, but he decides to spare King Agag and to keep the best of the livestock. But how many of us know that partial obedience is still obedience? And Saul had to face the consequences. But unfortunately, our sins don't always just affect us, but they can also affect future generations. Because not only was his kingdom stripped from him and his entire bloodline, but some of Agag's descendants were able to escape. So now we have Haman. And Haman is promoted to a high position in the kingdom. And because of his status, the people will bow to him, everyone except for Mordecai. So he becomes angry. He sets out to kill not only Mordecai, but all the Jews. So he gets the king to go along with his plan. He creates a law that on the 13th day of the 12th month, all Jews throughout his empire will be put to death. So Mordecai goes into mourning. And then Esther sends word by her servants to learn exactly what's going on with him. So he sends word back to Esther about the king's law. And he asks her to plead to the king on behalf of her people. But Esther sends that word. She's like, cuz, I know what you're saying. But everybody knows you can't just roll up on the king uninvited. It didn't matter who you were. As a matter of fact, if you entered into the inner court without being called, you could be put to death. The only exception is if he held out his golden scepter. So here was where Mordecai has to pretty much check Esther, because he's like, look, don't think because you're so cute and you sitting up in there in that little palace that you're going to escape this any more than you ever do. Right. And even if you don't do it, God is going to rise up somebody else that will. Right. So after he finishes snatching Esther's royal edges, he poses a very important question. He asks her, who knew whether you have now come to the kingdom for such a time as this? And that's why it's important to keep people like Mordecai in your circle, because those are the people that don't mind checking you when you're tripping, but would also remind you that you are on an assignment. So Esther's like, okay, gather all the Jews, and I need y'all to fast for 3 days on my behalf. And at the end of the third day, I will go to the king, though it against the law, and if I perish, I perish. Esther had tried her hardest to get out of this assignment, but could you really blame her? She went from an orphan to the palace to being queen, where she was asked to hide who she was, but now you want me to stand out, and not only stand out, but risk my life? But she's at the point where she surrenders her will and begins to step into her position. And I remember a time in my own life when I too wanted to run for my assignment. Standing out would mean physical death, but to me it meant death to the life and the things that I felt made me me. Growing up, I didn't see too many women that looked like me or acted like me or sounded like me in ministry. But Jeremiah 1:5 tells us that before I formed you in the womb, I approved of you as my chosen instrument, and before you were born, I separated you and set you apart, consecrated you, and I appointed you a prophet to the nations. God said, Brittany, I know you. I made you the way you were for a reason. That's right. Your uniqueness is what's going to set you apart. But here I was trying so hard to fit in. But then I began to think about all of my shortcomings and how all these things disqualify someone like me. Now, this is a point in my life, the mixtape, where I would add a song by my favorite boy band. Now, I know y'all remember a time where boy bands ruled the world, right? Mm-hmm. And of all the boy bands, there were two major groups. You either Team NSYNC or Team Backstreet Boys. Who was singing Backstreet Boys? Who was singing that 8th grade? But I was singing Backstreet Boys. And I remember they had a song called As Long As You Love Me. And the chorus said, I don't care who you are, where you're from, what you did, as long as you love me. And when I listen to those lyrics all these years later, I'm like, wow, I know they're talking about a girl, but honestly, that sounds like God could be talking about us. Yeah. Because as I'm trying to find reasons of why I'm not working on my worthy of my assignment, God is steady reminding me that those things don't matter as long as you love me. So you may be saying, well, God, I wasn't born, with a silver spoon. My family doesn't have connections. Or maybe your mother was on drugs. My father wasn't there. But God is saying, I don't care who you are. But God is a little girl from Dinwiddie County, or I'm from the wrong side of town, or I come from the hood. But He says, I don't care where you're from. Y'all, Jesus came from Nazareth, okay? He just said, what good can come from Nazareth? So they say, what good can come from Dinwiddie? What good can come from Richmond? What good can come from Portsmouth? Well, He says, I don't care where you're from. God said, I messed up so many times. I've done things I knew was wrong, but God says, I don't care what you did. That's right. As long as you love me. He says, I can work on the other stuff, but I want your heart. That's right.